On October 12, 1910, while docked in Madeira, Captain Robert Falcon Scott received a telegram. The message was brief, but its impact devastating. It read, Amundsen proceeding Antarctic. The race had begun.
It would become one of the greatest races in history. Two men, two nations, two vastly different strategies, each fighting for the honour of being the first to stand at the bottom of the world, the South Pole.
Not in a million years did I think I'd be back, but I am. I say it every time, it's my third time, and I'm so privileged to be in Antarctica. This time, hey my man, with Christian.
I want to thank my family, my friends, my mum for giving birth to me. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here.
It is a spectacular continent, my favorite on the planet, because it's wild, it's free, there's so few people here. But we're here to unearth the Natural Born Runners story about ecotourism, conservation, and more importantly, we've got to do those challenges. Christian, you better be ready, pal. You're gonna freeze your nuts off.
Hey!
Roald Amundsen had spent his life preparing for the cold. Originally, he had set his sights on the North Pole, but when news arrived that it had already been claimed, he made a fateful decision to head south instead. He told no one, not even his crew, until they were at sea.
Scott, however, was leading more than just a race. His expedition, backed by the British government, had grand scientific ambitions. His team carried geological equipment, motorised sledges and ponies. To him, this was about more than just victory. It was about discovery and national pride.
Scott's journey to Antarctica was made aboard the Terra Nova, an old wooden-hulled whaling and sealing ship, strong but incredibly slow.
The Southern Ocean's rough seas battered the Terra Nova relentlessly, causing leaks and flooding, washing away precious coal and fuel, and then thick pack ice trapped them, halting their progress for 3 long weeks. Scott and his exhausted crew were forced to break ice by hand and with dynamite.
Amundsen, however, had the Fram, a ship purpose-built for polar exploration. Its rounded hull allowed it to rise above and push through the ice with ease, giving him a crucial head start before Scott had even set foot on Antarctica ice.
Thankfully, we wouldn't need any dynamite on our journey to the White Continent.
5 o'clock wake-up call this morning, early start in Cape Town, and we're off to Antarctica in this beast of an aircraft. It's an Evolution 76. They've been operating since around the 70s. This was invented by the Russians, the Soviet Union, and it's an absolute monster of an aircraft. And they are used largely for cargo, but also a lot of humanitarian work. And the beauty of these things is they can land pretty much damn well anywhere. I mean, you just got to take a look around here and check out all the old equipment and the rivets that are sticking out and everything else. I mean, you gotta love this. It is absolutely sensational. Anyway, it's been a comfortable trip so far. Sitting in business class here, we got all the legroom in the world and all the snacks in the world on tap. Gotta love that. I think we're about an hour out now, so we're getting close and getting super excited. I always think I'll never get back there, but I always somehow find my way back here. This time courtesy of Ultima Antarctica Expeditions and our wonderful host, Harry Williams. So thanks guys, and buckle up. Okay, it is 9:30 in the evening, and it is minus 21 degrees Celsius. It is freaking freezing, and God only knows how Scott and Shackleton and those guys coped, because this is considered to be mild. Just beyond me is the camp that we're staying in. It's a little oasis. It's actually called Oasis Camp.
Amundsen established his base Framheim in the Bay of Wales, nearly 100 kilometres closer to the pole than Scott's. His strategy was simple: travel light, use fast and efficient dog teams, and take the shortest route.
Scott, meanwhile, set up his base at Cape Evans and took a more complex approach. He bought motorised sleds, Siberian ponies, and relied heavily on man-hauling. But the ponies, unaccustomed to the Antarctic, were already at a disadvantage before the journey even began.
Unlike Scott's team, who wore heavy, restrictive wool and military-style gear, Amundsen's team, inspired by his time with the Inuit people of the Arctic, used lightweight, fur-based clothing that provided better insulation, flexibility and breathability. Amundsen departed first, October 19, 1911. His team moved swiftly and efficiently. Scott wouldn't leave until November the 1st. Amundsen had planned every detail, including nutrition. His men ate a high-fat, high-protein diet inspired by the Inuit. Fresh meat, liver, organs, seals, pemmican, chocolate, biscuits. This kept them strong and free from scurvy. Scott's team, however, suffered from poor nutrition. Their low-fat, low-vitamin C diet led to weakness, scurvy and extreme exhaustion.
The food served at Oasis was a little bit more upmarket. Gordon Ramsay, Jamie Oliver, eat your freaking hearts out, because this is cooking at a whole new freaking level. This is the beautiful Jess, one of the greatest chefs I've ever met.
I think we definitely just want to make something incredible for our guests, to have like a epic experience, something that they definitely wouldn't necessarily expect in Antarctica, and just to generally wow them, you know. I think it's important that we kind of nail all those small little aspects and get it to the point where we can actually really impress the guests. And yes, we are limited to where we are in the world currently, but no restrictions apply.
With his sled dogs, Amundsen and his 5 crew covered an astonishing 30 kilometers a day, twice the speed of any man-hauling team. To save time, he took a bold gamble, choosing the untested Axel Heiberg Glacier, steep, treacherous and unpredictable, but a direct path to the pole.
Scott, meanwhile, took the longer route via the Beardmore Glacier. His motor sledges broke down early, forcing his men to haul their heavy loads by hand. Then, the ponies began to falter in the deep snow. One by one, they were shot. It became the ultimate test of human endurance, and not to be outdone, Paul and Murray embarked on their own grueling challenge.
We were invited by Runbuck to partake in one of their official ultra races, which is called the Antarctic Ice Ultra.
I'm with Ted. This is an extraordinary man, because he is one of the world's great ultramarathon runners. He's done all the extreme ones around the world. He's actually done the 777, which is 7 marathons in 7 days on all 7 continents.
Yeah, that's the World Marathon Challenge, which is, I suppose, one of our signature events here. So
And you were one of the first to do it in the world.
I was one of the first to do. Back in 2015, we did the World Marathon Challenge, and there were a group of 12 of us who took it on, and 11 athletes and me.
Fantastic.
as it was said on ESPN when they did a little documentary on it, it was like 11 athletes and Ted Jackson. I was like, This is the inaugural Ice Ultra, so it's the first time that there's been a 24-hour race here in Antarctica, especially here on the main continent of Antarctica. So we are really here on the mainland.
There were probably about 20 athletes that partook, and obviously my brother and I joined the race. We didn't have as much time to conquer the real challenge, because there were 2 blokes from the USA that achieved the 100-miler. So they literally ran through the night, and they broke the world record for that. So
just to come here and experience Antarctica is such a privilege. I mean, it really is, and this place is pristine. And I love the fact that wherever we go in Antarctica, whichever base we go to, the first thing they say to us is that we leave no footprint, that we leave it as we found it, and that if we go to the toilet, that gets taken away. It gets taken away, absolutely. So, and I love that because, obviously there's a lot of things in the world about sustainability and all that kind of thing, and that's important to us. I know, and that may sound like a juxtaposition when we're flying around the world in 7 days, but, we're doing our best to limit that as well. I think we are here, and I think all the nations in the world actually are very keen to protect this area. And we're as keen to protect it and bring it to the people's imagination and to the forefront of their minds. That we need to look after it.
So, after a well-deserved nap,
Hey Brian, we're just going to turn up. Fast asleep. He didn't even run today. My word.
we were off to our next challenge, a 10-kilometer hike down to the ice shelf with our guide, the legendary and extremely handsome Ethan. It's very rocky here, so the best thing to do before you come to Antarctica is to do some athletic training. If you can afford to go to a gym, I'd do so. Or if you're naturally athletic, like myself, then maybe a few push-ups and a few squats. Paul stacked it.
This ice shelf runs for up to 80 kilometers until you reach real sea. Pretty damn amazing. And Antarctica carries 90% of the world's ice.
We are on sea level. We're basically on the ocean here, but this is all glacial ice. So this is part of the ice shelf. So it starts off as snowflakes, builds up, gets compressed into glacial ice over time, from fresh snow to firn to glacial ice. And so this is the ice shelf. So this is all glacial.
The continent is twice the size of Australia. So that's pretty damn big. We know how big that country is. Sadly, she's losing up to 100 to 200 billion tons of ice a year. Now that's really depressing. Now if all the ice melts, scary fact, the sea levels will rise by 200 feet or 60 meters. Terrifying. And finally, the coldest temperature ever recorded on this continent and in the world, negative 89 degrees Celsius.
The ice shelf was impressive, sure, but what we were about to see next was truly magical.
Okay, here we go, Christian. I told you I was going to bring you somewhere special. This is almost like a glacier cave or a sea ice cave. And I don't know how long it runs for, but probably about 50-60 meters. And the blues are just mesmerizing.
When you're in the actual cave there and so much ice around you, the water molecules, even though they're frozen, you have solid water here, frozen water, the molecules are actually still moving. These atomic bonds they're connected to, they're still kind of vibrating around. So if you boil a cup of water, they move around very violently, very quickly, and as such you get boiling water. Down here, they're moving very slow, but they're still moving. And one of the cool things is as light passes through the ice, the vibrations actually occur at a similar frequency to the red and orange part of the light spectrum. So it almost like neutralizes it or cancels it out. And what you're left with is like blue and violet light actually refracting through the ice.
This is almost like Superman's crystal palace, eh? It is so smooth, eh? It doesn't actually feel like ice. Oh, I bet you if you try and lick it, it'll be fine.
Don't try that. Now, when we left the cave, we had the pleasure of meeting some of the curious locals. The Adelie penguin.
You won't believe it, these little guys have followed us. I don't know, it must be about 300-400 meters. They're absolute little gems. They are so friendly. And I think they're just looking for mates. Anyway, the day's coming to an end and I think it's time for a well-deserved monkey shoulder, Christian. What do you think? Okay, Christian, I promised you a surprise if you conquered the mountain and got down to the ice caves. So I've carried this all the way in my bag for you. A bit of your favorite brand, Monkey Shoulder Whiskey. And we're going to do you a favor and give you one of the best whiskeys you've ever tasted. All right, take it away, Ethan.
Mind your eyes.
That's kind of just drop that whole thing in.
Yeah, there we go. There you go, lad.
Monkey shoulder.
Oh, look at that. You keep trying. 10 out of 10 for trying.
Monkey shoulder in Antarctica. No one else in Dagenham's doing it, and no one else in the world's doing it. So monkey shoulder, sponsor me now.
We're done. We are absolutely shattered. And you're not allowed to wee in the snow here. So Christian desperately needed to go. And this is how desperate he was. Look how full that is.
Size of that.
I think in the late afternoon we got back to camp, and I think the best part of the Oasis camp is the fact that they've got a Russian sauna, which they call a banya. Christian, I bought you a little gift. I don't know what they call these things. It was like the weirdest thing. There you go, buddy. A banya hat. For some reason, you got to wear this hat in the sauna.
Oh, my fellow Russians, it's me, Christian, ready for the sauna. Got my beer, got my personality. Hey! No. Oh, making a mistake. You put ears in me. That's in hearing. Sorry, squeeze life out. I want to be sleeping on that plane marathon today.
Yeah, maybe to be dicked around for the first 2 hours.
On January 17th, 1912, Captain Robert Falcon Scott and his men, faces hollow, bodies weakened, stumbled onto the barren plateau of the South Pole. They had made it, but their triumph was short-lived. A flag flapped in the icy wind, a tent stood before them, half buried in the snow, and inside a letter waiting, as if mocking their struggle.
Amundsen had beaten them. Scott had failed. He sank to his knees, whispering, "The worst has happened. All the daydreams must go."
Defeated, frostbitten and weak, Scott and his men now faced a far greater challenge, the journey home.
So our final day would certainly be the most special. I thought I'd start that day and go for a run around the camp. Christian, of course, had other ideas.
Yeah. Only 11 people have been born here, all of which survived birth, which makes Antarctica, believe it or not, the lowest for infant mortality rate in the world. So, if there's a place to be born, my friends, it's here, Antarctica. Another fun fact, polar bears actually live in the North Pole, not the South Pole. So there's no polar bears here. The only polar bear that's here is me. From Dagenham, by the way, the first and possibly the last. And as we returned from our rigorous morning excursions, we were greeted by an old friend, a lonely Adelie penguin. And this time, we had at hand our bird expert, Pete, to explain.
So these guys are really interesting because they can, unlike the emperors which breed on the ice, you know, they need rock to breed on.
Right.
And this is the closest bit of rock to the ocean for more than 1,000 kilometers along this part of Antarctica. And somehow they seem to be able to sense that there's rock here because every spring, you know, you get a bunch of Adelies coming over here.
Oh, how's this one surviving? Where's the food here for him?
Oh,
Or
no,
her?
they're living off fat. So, you know, these
Okay.
guys, ahead of breeding and ahead of molting, they'll put on a third of their body weight in fat, and they can fast for, you know, certainly a month or two. Not
Okay.
a problem. I feel kind of sorry for them down here because they're a long way from home and a bit lonely, I think, particularly this one.
So when you talk about Shackleton and Scott and all of them,
Did they have to resort to eating penguins?
Oh yeah, I mean the huskies would be fed penguins and stuff. Yeah, for sure.
So they fed their dogs.
I'm sure they would have as well at times if they had to.
And tell me now, there are no dogs allowed, no animals allowed.
No.
On the continent, but then they would bring their ponies and
the whole bang shoot. Yeah. No, a lot has changed in the last century. Biosecurity is a huge issue. It's kind of less so on the continent because the environment is so severe that not many things can survive here. But in like the subantarctic islands, the biggest threat we pose to those islands is introducing new species. Can just really make a horrific difference to the ecology there.
And Pete, just tell us what's happened in the last couple of years, because you've got this avian flu issue on the mainland.
Yeah, the colonial birds in particular, because once they're breeding in dense aggregations, then they can transmit it quite easily. So probably skuas transmitting it. So there is a real concern here that the South Polar skuas, which migrate right up to the Northern Hemisphere, could bring the highly pathogenic avian influenza down here, but so far, touch wood, it hasn't. And our job as people visiting the continent is to make sure that we don't bring it. So
they had to sterilise our shoes and then...
And that's why we're not allowed to sit down or lie down in the colonies. We have to clean our boots before we get there and then make sure that we're not introducing anything.
So you reckon you can't even put your bag on the ground? That's how strict it is.
That's the regulation,
Wow.
8 species of penguins roam Antarctica, but its most infamous is none other than the emperor penguin. There are currently 66 known emperor penguin colonies along Antarctica's coastline. However, our visit to this particular colony was rather special.
Right, we are here with our twitcher, our bird specialist, Pete. And Pete, why don't you do us a favor and just tell us a little bit about what we're going to go and experience now, because this is one of those real one in a millions.
Yeah, so we're in the Twin Otter and we're flying from Novo out to the Lazarev Emperor Penguin colony. So this colony was first discovered in 1959 by the Russians, who flew over it, and then it wasn't seen, it's never been visited, nobody knew where it had gone until maybe about 8 years ago it was picked up on satellite imagery again, and this year is the first time that we've actually ever visited. So a week or so ago we flew out and we were able to land and have a look. So this is only the second ever visit on the ground to go and see these emperor penguins. So pretty amazing experience. And Lazarev is a fairly small colony by emperor standards, maybe 1,000 to 1,500 chicks. But I think you're going to be blown away by the experience. It's a beautiful sight.
I honestly feel like we're on a BBC natural history shoot here. That's how excited I am, because that's the typical stuff that they do. Once in a lifetime. So few people have seen it. I mean, this is going to be so epic.
So we're between two big chunks of glacial, sort of Antarctic ice shelf. The emperor penguin is the polar bear of the south. It's like the cause célèbre for cutting our carbon emissions. The species is currently listed as near threatened, but is likely to be upgraded fairly soon to at least vulnerable. So the climate model projections are that northern colonies, like this is one of the northern colonies, they're calling them going to be functionally extinct by the end of this century. So there's not really much you can do in Antarctica. What we have to do is stop putting fossil fuel into the atmosphere. So it's a global commons issue for this species. It's a difficult one to tackle, but yeah, this species is really on the firing line, particularly at these northern colonies. So right down in the heart of the Ross Sea, the colonies are actually doing better at the moment because they're getting better sea ice conditions because of global warming. But up here, they're losing their sea ice too quickly.
The emperor penguins face an uphill battle, but a testament to their resilience is their ability to breed through the Antarctic winter successfully, where temperatures can plummet to minus 60 degrees.
Eggs laid in May and the chicks hatching in July in the heart of the winter. The parents shuttling backwards and forwards from wherever the closest open water is, so it's quite a significant undertaking to get the chicks to this age. Now, for the last month or so, the chicks have been able to look after themselves, and so both parents are able to shuttle backwards and forwards. And this stage they're growing really quickly. They're getting delivered 2 to 4 kilos of fish and krill and squid every couple of days. You see they've got these big fat bellies, so most of the chicks are doing really well at this stage. They've got a rush on because they've got to get fully grown and a new coat of waterproof feathers by the end of December before this ice breaks up. So yeah, the parents have got their work cut out. So penguins mainly forage during the day. They can dive down to about 560 meters and stay down for 20 odd minutes. So one of the big challenges they face, even though they can stay underwater for quite a while, is it's really dark down there. So they're coming up and it's this bright sunshine, and then down they go and it's pitch black. And so, our ability to accommodate changes in light intensity mainly are affected by chemicals in your retina. So it takes you 4 or 5 minutes to really get full night vision. And if you get a bright light in your face, you lose it. These guys have got an incredible pupillary response. So if you look at them up close, you can hardly see their eye, and that's because the cornea is dark.
Yeah.
But the pupil is like a pinprick out in bright light. And when they get down into deep water, it opens up and lets in 300 times more light. And this whole ecosystem depends on a large amount of sea ice forming, which creates the feeding opportunity for the baby krill. So all the krill feeders depend on sea ice. And if we don't have sea ice, you'll see major change in the functioning of the ecosystem in the Southern Ocean.
There are not many opportunities to do what we've done today and on this trip, because this is incredibly unique. Only 2 groups of people have ever visited this particular colony of penguins on the planet, and we're one of them. We're the second one. And to be in a wildlife situation, in a wilderness situation like this, is incredibly special, because when you see wildlife coming up to you as a human being, you just don't get that anymore. I mean, we've really messed up our planet, and animals fear us. But in Antarctica, in this last wilderness on the planet, animals come to you, and that is so, so special. I'm sitting here with Murray. He's gonna close with a very special few words.
There's this gorgeous expression which goes something like this from The Little Prince, that beautiful book written more than half a century ago. It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is most important is invisible to the eye. And I think, Paul, what you will have experienced here today is what you'd have seen with your own eyes, what you can hear, this colony all around us. But most of all, what you can see through the experience of your heart. It's a deeply moving moment, this. And as we said at the beginning, this is not a journey, this is not a voyage, this is a pilgrimage to visit one of the most resilient communities of creatures on planet Earth.
Pulling heavy sledges across the frozen wasteland, Scott and his men battled through blistering winds. Hunger and frostbite gnawed at their bodies. Every step became a struggle against the inevitable.
Edgar Evans, the strongest among them, was the first to fall. A head injury days earlier had left him weak and disorientated. Now his body could go no further.
Next was Captain Lawrence Oates. Frostbitten and barely able to walk, he knew he was slowing the team down. His final act was one of quiet sacrifice, stepping out into the storm with a simple farewell.
3 remained, Scott, Bowers and Wilson. With blackened, frozen hands, Scott picked up his journal and wrote his final words.
Robert Falcon Scott and his men perished just 11 miles from safety. Though they lost the race, their story became one of the greatest testaments to human endurance and sacrifice.
A stark reminder of the unforgiving nature of exploration, where preparation, knowledge and decision-making mean the difference between triumph and tragedy. Yet their failures and triumphs paved the way for the explorers who followed. They and those who came before and after stand as a testament to our unrelenting desire to explore, to learn, and to push beyond the limits of the known world.
But why embark on such perilous journeys at all? Perhaps the best answer comes from British mountaineer George Mallory. When asked why he wanted to climb Everest, he simply replied, "Because it's there." Like Scott, he never made it back. On our next episode, we explore South Africa's Western Cape Peninsula with Gilt Edge's fabulous guide, all-round legend, Joram. Big shout out to our sponsors Terra Nova and Shine Creative, and a massive thank you to Ultima Antarctic Expeditions for inviting us.